Hello, powerful one. Welcome to this edition of Final Growth with Osezuah Elimihe. Have you ever been involved in a competition? How does it feel like? When you are competing, do you really feel that you are in your natural habitats? Mentally, do you think that you are doing what you are not supposed to be doing? Is it possible that you find justification to compete because it is socially acceptable, because it is expected of you to do? Or is it natural to you to compete with other people? Don't stand in a position of judgment. I am not asking you to judge yourself, but I'm only asking these questions so that you can come with me on this journey of probing the plausibility of competition to the human soul. Now, what is the characteristics of competition? Now, people who support competition may have a different understanding of competition. For example, in sports, what we see as competition is a celebration of youth virality. You are celebrating youth. But when it gets to the point where the outcome of the competition begins to determine how you see yourself and how you see the other people, then it becomes the competition that we know, which is something destructive. It is you measuring your height with other people. Now, society has this way of making us compare ourselves. Some people are born from childhood, they start pitching one child against the other because they are grooming them to the understanding that opinions of certain people about you counts above you actually being yourself. This is why there are certain standards that are acceptable. This is why class performances are based on the fastest to catch up. All right, so speed comes into the game. So if you are not as fast as the other child, you are found to be inferior, and they knock this sense of inferiority into you because they are comparing you with others. Those comparisons are destructive by nature. They construct nothing. Few children are able to outgrow those blocks, those programs that are written into them that tell them that they are not good enough because they are not as fast as other children. And most of them take it to the adulthood. I listen to some big men, some grown men who are retired CEOs. Some of them are still CEOs. Some of them are governors. Some of them are ministers. Some of them are something very powerful politicians, millionaires and billionaires. When you listen to them talk, you'll be shocked to realize that they still have not overcome the programming that school put into them. And the people that created these programs into them are not even as socially evolved as they have become, yet the programs are running them. Where are these all coming from? It's from a sense that your life acquires value when you are better than others. That is the definition of competition. What value does winning a competition give to any human being, really? The best you get from winning a competition is material things. Money, sometimes a piece of metal that you hang around your neck, a trophy that you put somewhere. Now listen, I have got about 2 or 3 medals from my competitive event as a much younger person in taekwondo and then football. I don't even know where the medals are because I have never really treasured those things. The kick I got from competition is actually competing. It was actually participating in competition, which I loved about the Olympics. They tell you the spirit of the Olympics, the most important thing in the Olympics is to participate, not to win. That is what fosters a sense of dignity in the lives of people. So to qualify to the Olympics is dignity enough. But before you get to qualification for the Olympics, you have to compete in a very harsh way with people in your country to emerge as a flag bearer for your country. Now, in order to get the best out of people, you have to remove the element of comparison from competition. You have to remove the element of self-definition from the outcome of competition. It has to be taken out. If those two things are not taken out of the so-called competition, it becomes destructive and it creates people who are not able to value themselves until people value them. Because that's what competition is all about. People have to applaud you on the basis of what you're doing. So these things engender a doingness in the lives of people. So people grow up to understand that they are of value when they do something market. But my friend, you are not of any value when you do something market. You are of value when you breathe. The capacity to breathe, which everybody has in common, is a blessing. And that thing is waiting for you to see how well you use your breath to upscale your inner being into a level that is above the control of your environment and the control of the mental apparatus. That is the goal. And competition cannot do that for you, because how the competitive spirit uses the mind is not to evolve the human being, not at all. It is to evolve the ego and to evolve the intellect along the line of external measurements, of external achievements. That has nothing to do with the human being. Competition has no place for the soul, because the soul is left behind while the human being is charging off like a horse without beats. Well, we will go back for a short break now, and we'll be back to continue this discussion. I am Osezuah Anthony Elimihe. You know me. I am in the game of helping you grow from inside out. That is the dream. You're welcome back. Whatever competition has given to you is of no value. Time will always erode it. But the people who stand out in competition are the people who did not run down other human beings on the basis of their excellence in sports, in the activities of competition. What competition actually does at the very extreme is that it destroys the human enterprise. We have people who gamble with competition. When the competition is built around the enterprise, it's no longer competition, it is war. Now, some people have described business as war. And I'm asking myself, the reason people set up business is to create utility, to create value for people. And by creating value for people, they are earning value. The value you earn by creating value for people is actually smaller compared to the value you create for people. What is the value of the good sleep that the mattress you are building for families? What is the value of money to that? Can money buy sleep? No. You do beautiful mattresses. People sleep on it. And once they hit it, they are so calm and they sleep off. Who says there should be competition around that area? Except that when I sleep on the mattress and I love it and I tell myself, I want to do something better. Not because this mattress isn't good, not because I want to prove a point to these people who have made this mattress, not because I want to kill the business that created this mattress, but because I want to add more value. I want to see how far I can push possibilities around the business of mattress. And then you go and set up your own business on that area and do something special. By so doing, you are heightening the human comfort right here on earth. If that is the competition, it's okay. But when competition gets to that point where you want to win at all costs, goodness, you will even kill other people's businesses so that your business will be the only one thriving. That in itself is a travesty on your own soul and on your own mind, because you are no longer celebrating the spirit of enterprise. You are celebrating the spirit of mediocrity. A lot of the times, mediocrity is at the background of most competitive minds. Let me make this clear here that competition only develops the mind at the level of the ego, not even at the level of the intellect. What you do is that because the ego is so willing to be vaunted, to be exalted, it puts so much pressure on the intellect to stretch. That's what it does. The intellect doesn't celebrate anything. It just keeps walking like a horse. Imagine you are involved in a race. You use the horse to run. Is it equestrian? What do they call that kind of game? You run with the horse. The person that won the game is the horse. That's the one that rode. You were controlling it, no doubt about that. But you see, the racer and the horse become one during the race. At the end of the day, the glory goes to the person who sat on the horse. But the horse bore the brunt of the race. That is what the intellect is in the race of competition, the race of humanity. The intellect does the running. The ego is charging the intellect. Go, 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 go. But the game that we play, the true competitive game that we play, is that the soul, the human soul, has to intervene in the relationship between the intellect and the ego and ensure that the intellect is not sent on missions that are of no value to life. You look at the educational system, it is built out of that. I have tried to find an answer for why our systems are what they are. Because if you check some of the course outline at some of our universities, you are going to wonder, what values are these courses giving to the human mind? You won't say it. They are all geared towards engendering competition in this outer world. What is actually going on? It is simple. There are certain control freaks in the world of humans that are making sure that human beings are forced to focus on the peripherals, focus on those things that are not essential, so that they can run after those other ones that are peripheral. And that's what competition is all about. Look at sports, for instance. There's a coach in football that I hardly have a respect for, but he's a very good coach. Very good coach. But when he was coaching a certain team in La Liga, his team, very good players, I assure you, he created a very solid cohesion in that team. But you see, whenever they played, you saw that there's an unfair advantage on the side of his team. His players, if you touch them, they will just dive, and then they will get some kind of support from the officiating authorities. It was like the system always liked and wanted them to win. There was a particular game that they played in England, Champions League, I think, was it quarterfinal or semi-finals, involving a team I love so dearly. That game was super. But guess what? The team from the La Liga committed so many fouls, apparently towards the dying moment of the game, as this team from England tried to strike home and win that game. There were a few penalty calls that the referee ignored just because they wanted this team to proceed. It was so shameful. Until this time, I was still respecting the coach because I know he is a good coach. When the game ended and his team won that game, the way this man celebrated, it was so shocking to me. I said, your team won by theft, by sheer act of thievery, and you celebrated as if you won the entire world. I couldn't understand it. It was shameful. From that day on, my respect for that coach just went. No matter how much thing he attains, I'm not really interested in it, because it simply shows a man whose excellence in sport, in managerial things, is actually eroded by a very powerful and untamed ego. The desire to win at all costs is not a human desire. When competition becomes something that requires you to win at all costs, you are not even struggling to be human at all. There's a difference between wanting to win, but along the line of your strength. And that strength is that you curtail the action of your opponent, because the game is about entertainment. That's all it is all about. You want to give your supporters something to cheer about, not because you want to present yourself as superior to another person. It is that idea that I am better than the other person that is negative about competition. In business, you have it. In relationships, even in families, some parents engender competition amongst their children. Okay, I do not understand the basis for all these things, because what competition does to the human psyche is so ugly that no responsible parents, no responsible leader, no responsible coach or manager of persons will allow that to happen. Okay, the mentality of competition is that resources are scarce and I need to outdo others so that I might get it. It is a slap on the face of the generous nature of life. Life is by nature generous. Life is by nature non-discriminatory. Competition breaches all of these rules. You see, you breach generosity because you believe that things are not enough. What you want for yourself, nobody else should have it. It's only you that should have it. You can step on people to get it. You can slander people to get it, because you are more important than everyone else. That is against non-discrimination. Because the rule of life is that whatever you want for yourself, want it for every other person. I have seen some images come out of the Olympics that just made me so happy. It brought my soul out, unfurling its wing with joy. When races happened and somebody was on the lead and he didn't know what to do, the person that was in second place pushed him. He could have overtaken the person to win it, but he pushed him. He helped him to win because he felt that this man had worked hard for it and he deserved it. He should not be disqualified on the basis of some funny technicality. That is a human being. Such a person should be a coach of men. He should be coach of children because that person understands what life is all about. I remember when I was in football, when I was playing football at the amateurish level, I noticed certain players who just want to aggravate you on the pitch so that you might get a card. And they also want to injure you. I had a friend that became very close to me. We became very close. But when I saw him on the pitch of play, all the while, when I saw people play rough tackles on people just on fun games, I just cut from them. I said, these are not good people. Because the way a person plays a game reveals the person's inner structure. This guy will injure people deliberately just because he wants to get the ball, just because he wants to have his way with the ball. I overlooked it. I felt maybe it is his weakness. Until over time, he began to exhibit himself to me. I realized that he is really not a friend. All right? People who are prone to take advantage of the weak, they are people you shouldn't trust. Because these are people who are stunted in their growth and their souls are not even present in their human circuit. What is present in the human circuit is the ego running the show. The soul is locked out because that thing they call love, that thing that is called empathy, they see it and interpret it as sentiments. A society where competition of this nature exists in business, in politics, in other spheres of life is always a retrogressive society. It gets to that point where competition is played against members of the household, like it happens in some countries, where politicians are fighting against themselves. In the process of fighting against themselves, they are putting their country's progress on hold. Where people who had the opportunity to make their country great and they didn't do it out of parochial interest, parochial sentiments, come back to start criticizing people who are doing better than they are, and they start trumping up stories about things. Competition of this nature, if that is what competition at this level of thought, which is ego vaunting, is a negative thing. I won't say it's a thing of the devil, because I don't even think the devil will involve in such competition. Because I know that forces outside the human sphere act in line with rules made by their higher authorities. Only human beings breach rules. If you go and check the jungle, the war there is not competitive. They don't. A war happens only because certain males are out to protect their turf. Protection of turf is not competition. Some war fights could happen when they want to eat. And once they have eaten, there is peace. That's survival game. Competition is not about survival. It's about domination. It's about control at a point where there should be no control. A human being should know what to control and what not to control. They should know the limits of control. But when people are unable to know the limits of control, they are engaged, they are involved in destructive competition. Scarcity, the low sense of self, these are the background, the root cause of competition. Nobody with a high sense of self will do it. Because if you have a high sense of self, you understand that what you do to others, you do to yourself. When you make somebody else sad, you are constricting your soul. A high sense of self says that all is one and one is all. That's what it's all about. If you have that mentality, that understanding of life, you will not be involved in this kind of competitions. All the central nervous system maladies that we have, they are all coming from competition. When you train your child to be cooperative, not to engage in competition, and to not see themselves higher than other people, they will live their lives without suffering certain illnesses of that nature. Now, I'm not saying that people who are suffering from such sicknesses because they are competing. But it's possible they are, because such things bring about this thing, because anxiety is the core of competition, right? I was talking about when I contested the election for presidency in my department some years ago. All the while I was doing that election, I was the most popular candidate and I was having fun. When they were counting the results, my opponent was standing next to me. He was having a fever. Yeah, he was shivering while they were counting the votes. He believed I was going to win, but I wasn't so sure I would win, because by this time, the class where I had the highest support were to have lectures by 1 o'clock that day, and the election started by 8 a.m. and ended by 11. So that was a rigging that was done with style. And because I was the most popular candidate, most people felt that Osezuah had won. There's no need to, but I would just go there and vote when our time came. When the queue of these people came, it was a long queue. They said voting had ended. So I took it within my stride. And that was an aspect of the election that we didn't envisage. It happened. New fight in politics, that's what it is. This guy was standing next to me. He was shivering, was holding himself this way, was shivering. Osezuah, you are a great guy. You ran a fantastic campaign. If you win, I will work with you. That's how I was talking. I said, boy, calm down. This is just a game. It's not really that bad. And who says I'm going to win? Just wait. When the door opened and his returning and his representative came out and stretched his hand towards him and said, we won, this guy collapsed. And my thought was, what if I had won? What would have happened to this guy? He took it so deeply because he defined himself by the outcome of that election. His sense of self was tied to it. I was very happy that I did not win. That was one of the few things that happened in my life that made me feel that I'm a good person. I was happy that I didn't win. Of course, he invited me to come and work with him. I said no. I didn't think I could work with such a person. I'm not out to change anybody, and I'm not also out to be rubbed off on. I don't want people to rub off their nature on me. I told him, no worry, I don't have anything against you, succeed, and that was it. So, what I'm putting across here is that competition reduces the human capacity for expansion. It is constricting, it is unfriendly, it breaches the key characteristics of nature: non-discrimination, sense of abundance, generosity. It breaches all of them. If you understand that life is abundant, where is your competition going to come from? If you are non-discriminatory, why would you deny people what you want for yourself or what they want? You see it? That is what we are talking about. If you are generous, you will wish for others what you wish for yourself. And please, if you have children, train them on this line that life is generous. Life is non-discriminatory. What you want for yourself, want it for others. That is how to grow. I can't say more than this. Don't live your life, whether in business, whether in sports, whether in entertainment, anywhere, competitive. It will not take you anywhere beyond this region of lower minds. If you really want to be excellent, if you really want to be truly happy, if you really want fulfillment out of your life, if you want to have deep sleep and be comfortable with your life as you are, to be comfortable in your skin, you will know that you don't need such competitions. Competitions, as we know it, is something that you do that define you and nothing external. Nothing you do should define you. Your being should define you. Competition takes you away from your being and takes you to doing. It means you have value when you do things that people approve of. That's all. That's negative. Don't be that.